Okay, who y'all think we about to be, y'all? I am so shocked. We are on page 247. I'm so thirsty. Are you thirsty? Because I'm thirsty. I almost fell. I almost killed myself right there. Chapter 31. Hardly Expressionist mug as he slaps his photograph on the table in front of me. It's a black and white print of the man from Lizard Point, but taken years ago when his face was less raven and he looks attractive. So this was Sheen Elliott, Beth's ex. And all the time we were traveling together, she never once mentioned that she was married to him, or even what he was called. She drip-feed me information about him so that I was aware he was abusive and that he put her in the hospital. But that was all. I could understand why she never said more about him. Thailand had been her escape, as it might have been mine, a place where our past hadn't mattered. Or so I thought. Beth, I tried not to think about her over the years because to do so would cause my stomach to flip with guilt. When I first met Beth, I really liked her. I thought she was sparkly and I admired her courage. When she said she had a place at teacher training college, I admit it shocked me. I couldn't see her as a teacher. She seemed so tough and streetwise with her hard face and her foul tongue. But it was obvious she had a bit of a chip on her shoulder. She didn't take any shit, and I felt safe traveling with her. She could be manipulative. I caught onto that quite early on. But then the business with Harry and what came afterwards made me realize that she was actually a nasty piece of work. What had her husband doing in my flat? He was obviously the one who had arranged the house swap. D.S. Bryce said he was a builder working on the hideaway, so he would have access to the keys and must have cut one from himself. Why? But why go through all the trouble? Do you recognize this man? Asked Harley as an impatient tone, bringing me back to the present. Another detective, a woman this time, sits next to him. She's young, in her early 30s, and has very straight, glossy blonde hair in a bob. She doesn't speak. I shake my head, tears spring into my eyes, mumbling no comment, like my court-appointed lawyer advised me to do. He sits next to me, reassuring in his suit, his briefcase open on the table. I am in too deep. I am in too deep. I took Beth's identity without a doubt to her past or the future repercussions it would cause. How can I tell them the truth without losing everything? Yes, how can you? And why did you steal her identity? Can you go into depth, Karen, on why you did it? So you knew that she drugged you, because I mean that would make sense. You wouldn't know that she drugged you because you're not a big drinker. My life as Karen Fisher had been bleak. When my mom died, I was left with my dad, a raging alcoholic. He never hit us. He wasn't a violent drunk. Alcohol just heightened his emotions. I believe he really did love my mom in his own way. They rode, usually about his drinking, and once an affair with the local barmaid, but when he was sober, and he could be for long stretches at a time before relapsing again, he was the loveliest woman in the world. He was the loveliest woman in the world. He was the loveliest man in the world. Drop it in the comments. He surprised her with flowers, a trip to Sorrowbo, a Whitby. She loved it by the sea. He made her laugh and would sneak up on her while she was chopping vegetables in the kitchen and snake his arms around her waist, nuzzling her neck. She would back him away with a, "Get off, you silly bugger." But I could tell by the way her eyes lit up that she enjoyed it. They never had much money, and my dad was forever in and out of jobs due to his drinking. We lived in a small village in a little house. It wasn't much, but Mom kept it clean and tidy. And it was furnished with little knickknacks and cushions that she had made. That's why I always loved being in Evelyn's place. Its warmth and clutter reminded me of home. But then my mom died and everything changed. My dad was desperate without her. He'd go out most evenings drinking, rolling in late, and collapsing onto the sofa, a big heavy mess reeking of alcohol and cigarettes. I longed to keep our home looking nice, as Mom had done. But when Dad was on a bender, he'd roll in drunk and smash things up. He'd never throw anything away, so empty cans, cigarette butts, and half-eaten crisp packets would be strewn all over the floor. I was forever cleaning up after him. I ended up missing school to nurse him as the drink took its cold toll on his health. I loved him and I wanted him to get better. I couldn't bear to lose both my parents. Even though I did well in my school exams, especially considering I missed so much school, I knew advanced learning and university was still out of the question. Dad was on benefits, but they didn't stretch very far and I needed to work. So I left school at 16 and took any job I could find. But the pay was terrible as I wasn't qualified for anything. I had no choice but to watch my friends leave our Small village for the big cities and universities like Manchester, Leeds, Bristol, and Cardiff. Places I could only dream of going to. And I soon lost touch with them all. Then I was 20 and my dad's liver finally gave out. He was only 53 when he died. I had no other family. My parents hadn't kept in touch with their own families. I sensed there was a rift when they got married. So I never knew any aunts or uncles or grandparents. The house I grown up in was put on the market, but my dad owed so much money in unpaid mortgage fees that I only got a few thousand out of the sale. Not knowing what to do with my life, I decided I needed to get away from the place where everyone knew my sad history. I had nothing and no one to keep me in Yorkshire. I always been a loner, slinking through life, hoping no one would notice me or feel sorry for me. I bought the first available flight, which appeared to be Thailand. I've been there less than 24 hours when I met Beth on the train. If only I'd known what traveling with her would lead me to. On the night of the fire, I watched rigid with shock as flames licked the hostel and gusts of smoke surged out of the window, knowing that Beth was trapped in there. It was chaos. Fire engines and an ambulance wailed to the scene. Then came shouts from the firemen as they darted in and out of the building or tried to put out the fire with their huge hoses. The air was scorching. Black smoke drifted up my nostrils and down my throat. I felt sick. Where was Beth? She must still be in bed. She had been out of it when I left. Oh, so she did look for it, but I'm trying to figure out no, something not right. The writer's doing is trying to make everybody sound good and not nobody to have a bad guy, and I'm not liking it. I grabbed the fireman, screaming at him that my friend was still in there, but he just shook his head sadly. I staggered away, unable to witness it any longer, and found another hospital to stay in. But I couldn't stay. I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, too horrified even to cry. But how did you get out of bed? You get what I'm saying? Because remember, she was asleep first. She fell asleep first, so you're not finna just make it. Why is the writer making it just seem like, oh, she was never in the bed, she was never in the house, and she had left? I returned the next morning. The hostel was a burnt-out shell. I was told that 8 had died. They couldn't tell me if Beth was among them. Not yet, said the policeman in haunted English. Not until their bodies had been identified. I rang around a few hospitals, asked if Elizabeth Elliot had been admitted, but nothing. It wasn't until I was insured in a hostel room a few streets away, shocked and nauseous, the smell of smoke still strong in my nostrils, that I realized in my hurry to flee the hotel, I picked up Beth's backpack instead of my own. Okay, so it was an accident. It had been a snap decision. When I saw everything that was in her bag, her wallet stuffed with cash, her passport, and her national insurance card, I thought about using them as means to keep traveling, rather than having to hang around waiting for the assembly to issue me another passport. I had no doubt that my possessions had been destroyed in the fire. I sat on the bed, my hair reeling, wondering what to do. Her stuff laid out in front of me on the orange blanket, and then I saw it. The Buddha that Harry had given me. What was it doing amongst other things? Then my eyes went to the letter. So she didn't know. She didn't know. It was an accident. I'm still not liking how the writer just made it seem like she just got up and left and she grabbed the wrong bag. So it was from the teacher training college, offering Beth a place on their 1-year postgraduate course in English. They had included all the information about the course and details on placements and funding for the 9,000 fees. How hard could it be? English was my best subject at school. But I hadn't been to university. I hadn't coped with doing a degree. Beth had scribbled on the letter in pen, reminding herself to ring them to defer. Has she done it? I pushed the thought from my mind, telling myself I'd never get away with it. They would have met Beth for an interview, but how long ago? We didn't look dissimilar. If I cut my hair and dyed it darker, then I could pass for her, couldn't I? They wouldn't only have met her once. A passing resemblance, that was all it needed to be. We both came from Yorkshire, so we both have similar accents. No, I couldn't do it. I wasn't brave enough. I didn't miss the idea and try to sleep. But a little voice in my head kept prodding, telling me that I had to do it. What were the options otherwise? Go to the university and go and do a degree myself? But that would take years. And by the end of it, I'd be in so much debt that I'd forever be trying to pay it off. I thought of my parents, of the life they lived. I wanted more. The next day I rang the college and said I was interested in starting in September after all. Then I went to a local salon and had my long hair dyed a rich chocolate brown and chopped into a pixie cut so that I resembled Beth's passport photo. I liked my new haircut. It showed off my big eyes and it accumulated my cheekbones. So as the years went by, I ended up keeping the style. It felt right. A new me for my new life. Every now and then I experience bouts of doubt that could make me stop in my tracks. My heart pounding, my mind whirling. What was I thinking? What if I get caught? What if Beth had survived the fire and took the place on the course herself? And then I convinced myself that she was dead. She had to be. There was no way she had survived. I phoned around all the hospitals. There had no records of being admitted. And if she had, by some miracle, managed to escape, then she had continued to travel north. She couldn't leave the country until she had a new passport. She was having doubts about being a teacher. She told me herself. And the course was only a year, not long to pretend to be someone else. Now the idea had formed in my mind, I knew I couldn't dismiss it. I had to go through with it. The prospect of being a teacher, working with kids, excited me. I have a future. Something to look forward to. It was so risky, but at the time I felt compelled to do it. Like this was my own one chance. What was the worst that could happen? I asked myself. If they found out I wasn't really Elizabeth Elliot, I'll get chucked off the course. But I had to try. I had to find a way to scrape back some semi-balance of a future because I couldn't afford to continue traveling forever. And then what? What would await me back at home? Factory jobs and stacking shelves, minimum wage, and no career prospects? I couldn't even type. Whatever Beth's background, and she hadn't told me much. At least she had the sense or luck to get some qualifications. I would work hard, I promised myself. I would keep my head down. It was a year, literally, if you thought about holidays. It felt as though fate was giving me a second chance, a way out. I had no choice but to take it, and so I did. I became Elizabeth Elliot, Libby, and then I met and fell in love with Jamie. And after a while, I began to forget that I was ever called Karen Fisher. Damn, girl, you so dirty. You so dirty. It don't make no damn sense. How you just petty. But she did you dirty first, so I guess it all evens out. You know what I'm saying? No. That's not how that roll. We don't roll down like that, pulling up on a no. Chapter 32. When I'm eventually released from the police station, I don't really see that Jamie has hung around for me. His whole body is tense and rigid as he sits bolt upright on a gray plastic chair in an airless waiting room, and he looks like he hasn't slept for a week. He's unshaven and his hair is in a tangled mop, as though he's been frantically raking his fingers through it. Libby, thank goodness. Are you okay? Have they charged you with anything? I shake my head, tears spring into my eyes at the look of his concern, of love on his face. He thinks I'm a bigamist, but he's still here, standing by me. I don't deserve it. He slings an arm over my shoulder and steers me outside to where the car is parked. I'm surprised to see that the sun is going down already. Although the air is still humid. I must have been in the station for hours. I slide into the passenger seat and my body starts shaking delayed shock. I need to tell Jamie everything, but will he ever forgive me? He sees everything in black and white, and I lied to him since the day I first met him. Yes, and then you have the fucking nerve to accuse him of cheating. You so fucking dirty and petty. I married him under a false name. Thanks to the corner-pointed lawyer, I'm not had to reveal anything to the police yet, but it'll only be a matter of time. I studied Jamie's profile as he drives, his straight nose, his full mouth, his left ear with the kink at the top. He's a funny, messy geek, and I can't lose him. He must have had a million questions swirling around in his brain, but he hasn't asked me any. His mouth is set in a grim line, and I reach out and touch his thigh. The denim rough up against my fingertips. I really love you, Jamie. You need to know that. He stiffens, and when he speaks, it's as though his throat is restricted. You're scaring me, Libby. I'm so sorry. I take my hand away and fold it into my lap. His chin crumples, and I can tell he's trying not to break down. He's thinking the worst, I know it. He's thinking I married the man, and I never told him. Does he think I'm a killer? When we get back to Sylvia, she fusses around me, making sure I'm comfortable on the sofa, offering to make tea, her bangles jangling as she positions a cushion behind my back as though I'm a patient, not a murder suspect. I can tell she's desperate to know what's going on. It's written all over her face. Jamie sits motionless by the window, looking out onto the street. He hasn't said a word since we got back from the police station. Ziggy is sprawled at my feet, and I reach down and stroke him, reassured by his presence. What will the High family do when they find out the truth? Will they chuck me out? Where would I go? The worry of it makes me feel sick. Where's Katie? Asks Sylvia as she moves toward the doorway. Oh, she's out with friends. Sylvia gives an unconcerned shrug, and I feel lighter knowing Katie isn't here with her probing, judgmental attitude. I wait until Sylvia has disappeared into the kitchen before returning to Jamie. We need to talk. He doesn't look at me but continues gazing out the window. The street beyond is empty. The trees shattering and moving slightly in the breeze, and the last of the sunlight filtering through the branches, bright like a flashlight. It's so quiet I can hear the birds tweeting outside. Jay? I try. I know, he says coldly, his head snapping around so he's facing me. I know we need to talk, but I don't know if I'm ready to hear what you got to say. It's going to change everything. Christ lives. You're already married to that man. He runs a hand over his face in it as expression. Why didn't you say? In Carnwell. You must have recognized him. How could you have married me when you knew you were already married to him? My God, is our marriage even legal? Are you even my wife? I lean forward. Listen, I can hardly tell you that I've never seen that man. I can honestly tell you that I've never seen that man before our holiday in Cornwall. He makes a disbelieving sound, though his teeth, but I hurry on. It's true. He was married to Elizabeth Elliot, but that's not me. Jamie stares at me. Elizabeth Elliot is not my real name. My name is Karen Fisher. I almost killed myself. Fell out my damn chair. His eyes go around with every word I tell him, so that by the time I finish the whole story, they look like they are going to pop out of his face. There is the stunned silence. Eventually, he says, "You're telling me that you stole another person's identity and used it to get out of Thailand and to start teacher training college?" I nod. "And the real Elizabeth Elliot? She's dead." He looks like he's about to throw up. How? When we were in Bangkok, there was a hostile fire. I hesitate, twisting a tissue in my hand. I managed to get out, but she was still in bed. He looked at me anguished. "You didn't try to save her?" I shake my head. "No, it wasn't like that. I was already outside when I realized the hostel was on fire. I have to tell him the truth, that I was trying to escape her." He frowns. "You were what?" "Yeah, so just admit that you took her motherfucking bag." I was running away from her. I never admitted this to anyone before. His eyebrows shoot up so that they were almost hidden by his fridge. "What? But why? I thought you said she was your friend." "I found out that she had done something awful to me. It's a long story and it's not important now. I just knew I could no longer trust her and I didn't want to continue traveling with her." "So you burgled off in the middle of the night, leaving her in the fire to die in the fire?" "I carried the guilt with me for years." I hang my head. He raises his hand through his hair. "Christ, Libby." Then he stops and gives a humorous laugh. "That's not your name, is it?" "It's her name. She calls herself Beth." He stands up suddenly that I shrink back against the sofa. "I don't give a fuck what she calls herself," he shouts. "I can't believe I'm hearing this. I can't." He storms out of the room. Sylvia comes in with a tea tray, the cups rattling as she walks. "Everything all right?" she says too brightly, her bangles clinking as she sets the tray down on the coffee table. I get up and dash past her without answering. I find Jamie in our room, lying on the bed and staring at the ceiling, his face expressionless. The curtains are open, but the room is in the shadow. The light, a gray white on his face. I stand over him. "Jay, you have to understand. I did it because I needed to change my life. My life was shit." Tears fill my eyes. He groans. "I just wish you'd told me. I feel like I don't know you. That's the thing that hurts the most. He sits up to face me. "You lied to me for 5 years. My background, everything I told you about my parents is true. But you hardly told me anything about them either. You always been so cagey about your background. Now I know why. I told you my mom died of a blood clot. That's true. I just lied about going to university. In your name, for Christ's sake." He shakes his head. "Why couldn't you tell me? You made me feel bad for hiding the fact that I was helping Hannah, that I cheated on her at uni." He gulps and makes an effort to continue. "And all of this time, you were hiding this huge thing from me, right? Nigga, you ain't even who you claim to be." "I thought it was odd you never went to go to Yorkshire, that you never really talked about your parents or Thailand. But this?" He throws his arms up in the air. "All this deceit. I'm finding it hard to record myself with the fact that you're capable of all this." I perch on the edge of the bed. Tears and snot are streaming down my face, and I brush my ass angrily with my sleeves and try to blow my nose with a disgrading tissue. "Would you have understood?" I sniff. "I couldn't tell anyone, and I wasn't hurting anyone, Jay. I didn't know that Beth was married. We were only 21 when we met, so young. Beth didn't want that place on the course. And I'm a good teacher. I saw with my hands, and eventually I hear the bed creak and feel Jamie's arms around me. "I'm so sorry," I say, burying my face into his t-shirt. "I'm so sorry." Are you? When I wake up, the room is completely dark and still. Too still. I can already sense that Jamie isn't with me. My fears are confirmed when I turned over and see the space next to me is empty. I'm fully clothed, but the air is turned colder. I grab a cardigan and creep downstairs so not to wake Sylvia or Katie. Jamie is sitting on one of the rocking chairs in the commatory in the dark, staring out at the garden bathed in the moonlight. It looks magical. He's wearing the same grubby t-shirt as earlier and the wallet and garment boxer shorts I bought him last Christmas. I slide into the seat next to him and take his hand in mine. He lets me. And we sit like that for hours, not speaking. Chapter 33. We can do this. A clean break. That's what Jamie wants. No more lies. And the only way to do that is to tell the truth and suffer the consequences. The next morning, as we sit around the breakfast table with Sylvia and Kate, I fill them in while Jamie silently butters his toast. Katie gawks at me open-mouthed. I knew it, she says, dropping her knife in excitement. It clouds onto the plate. I knew there was something off about you. Hold on, y'all. My bad, y'all. I was about to fall onto the ground. Chapter 33. Okay, he told him to. So she already told him. Sylvia's eyes radiate disappointment. It's painful and I lower my gaze. I'm sorry, I mumble. Another apology. It doesn't seem enough somehow. You took a dead girl's identity, Katie stares at me incredibly. How long was that? How low is that? She turns to Jamie. Surely you're not going to forgive her for this. She lied to you for years. What else has she lied to you about? How can you ever trust her again? She married you under a false name. She's a bloody bigamist. No, Katie, she's not. Jamie's voice is a warning. Well, she says hotly, she can't be trusted. And surely it's an offense to pretend to be someone else. I can't believe you standing by her. You're a fool. Her eyes flash dangerously as she turns her attention to me. And you're a criminal. I hope you're going to tell the police. If you don't, I will. Sylvia placed a manicured hand on her daughter's arm. Katie, you're not helping. She shrugs her mother off and jumps up. Why should I want to help this stupid cow? I'm going out. She grabs her denim jacket from the back of the chair and storms out of the room. A few seconds later, we hear the front door slam. I stare at my plate miserably. Savina's voice, when she speaks, is clear but gentle. I'm sorry about Katie. She's always been hot-headed, and she's firstly loyal to her brother. I do agree with her, though, Libby. You do need to go to the police. I'm going to call my lawyer, okay? She's the best in Beth. She reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. Your family, we love you, and we support you in this. Won't we, Jamie? She shoots a look at her son, then gets up and breezes out of the room, leaving me staring after her speechless. Will we get through this? Will we get through this? Because I don't know. I don't know if I want to get through this. That's the problem. Do I want to get through this? I don't know. I always thought your mom hated me, I say later, as we walk along the bad streets to the meeting with her lawyer. Jamie had showered and looked handsome and much younger than his 30 years in smart jeans and a short-sleeved linen shirt. It was just this morning my heart swelled when I saw him pick his outfit, realizing he was making an effort for me. The sun is shining, the sky a clear pale blue with the occasional gazy cloud. It's sort of beautiful spring day where you feel nothing bad can happen, and I felt optimistic that we can get past this, that Jamie can begin to forgive me. We can move forward, being honest with one another. I know I lose my job, that I may never teach again, and it devastates me, but losing Jamie terrifies me more. My mom can be a bit of a dragon, but she's loyal, like me. He takes my hands and squeezes it gently. He stops in the middle of the pavement, so the woman with her head down almost bumps into him. She toots loudly as she glides past. What is it, I ask. His face is so serious, I worry he's going to say he's changed his mind, and the day darkens just that little bit. He takes my hand in his, and his voice when he speaks is urgent. You have to promise me something, though, Libs. No more lies. I swallow. I promise. No more lies. We reach the lawyer's office, and we are buzzed straight in. Melanie Finch is in her early 50s, tall, thin, and glamorous, with sleek dark hair and a white streak at the front reminding me of Anna Bancourt in The Graduate. She sits making noise on a leather-bound pad while I tell her everything as clearly as I can. Jamie holds my hand the whole time. After I finish, she sits back in her chair and appraises me. Will she be prosecuted? Jamie says. She blinks at Jamie and then addresses me in her calm, well-spoken voice. Yes, you would still most likely be prosecuted because you use the identity of a dead person for your own gain. My mouth goes dry. Would I go to prison? She frowns. It's doubtful for a first-time offense. She'll probably get a suspended sentence. Maybe community service. I can't promise that, of course, as it really does depend on the judge. But Libby, there is a worse potential charge hanging over you. A man was found murdered at the bottom of your garden. You and possibly Jamie are likely to be suspects. She could have her notes. I see that D.I. Hartley has interviewed you already. I'm glad to see that you haven't given him any information yet. She frowns. It says here that the victim was last seen alive at midday on Wednesday, 5th April. An estimated time of death is anywhere between midday on the 5th and 6 p.m. the following day. Do you remember where you were? Relief washed it over me. Yes, I almost shout. We were in Cornwall. Wednesday the 5th was the day Jamie got sick and he was rushed to the A&E. We were at Falmouth Hospital that day. You could check. We couldn't have murder scene. We didn't get back to Bath until the evening of the 6th. My voice raises in excitement. Madeline Finch smiles. I would check it out, of course. But that's encouraging news. That is. She can't go to jail for that. She can go to jail for stealing somebody's identity, but she can't go to jail for that. The police went to question me again the next day, and Madeline accompanied me to the station. She advised me to admit everything. D.L. Hartley and his colleagues, D.S. Trout, sat in silence, the tape whirling while I explained all this happened. Shane must have ostracized the house swap in order to do something awful to me, thinking I was Beth. That's the only explanation I have to why he'd do such a thing. And he ended up dead. How convenient, said D.I. Hartley with a sneer. Maybe he had enemies, because Jamie and I were in Cornwall the whole week, staying in Shane's boss house. And on the day Shane was killed, we were in the hospital. Jamie had food poisoning, you see, from the food that Shane had provided. Melanie pushes a piece of paper across the desk. I have confirmation here from Falmouth Hospital, she says, but feel free to check it for yourself. The worst my client has done is commit identity theft. Dear Hartley glanced at me smugly, obviously relieved I'm not walking away from all this without some kind of punishment. And it's true. My career is ruined. The thought of no longer being able to teach breaks my heart. I'm back at square one. And I think of Jamie, my husband, the love of my life, and how he's standing by me, and I realize that no, I'm not back at square one at all. It's just a different kind of future than the one I had visualized. That's all. Jamie is waiting for me outside the police station. I fall into his arm, feeling so much lighter. Does that mean I get to call you Karen now? I hope not. I like the name Libby Hall. We're not legally married, you do realize that. He stops to kiss me, and me and Trish just going to have to do it again. Just us this time, a quiet affair. I throw my arms around his neck, just you and me. A new beginning, a fresh start. We can finally put the past behind us. It's not that easy. You think Beth is dead, but she is not. What the hell is Beth doing? Okay, let's go figure it out.